I just got a notification that you're live.
Okay.
So,
Well, hey, that's great news. Okay.
Right.
Well, then
Right.
I guess we are live.
Here we go.
Okay. Left my water somewhere. I know. Don't worry. I have my trusty cold brew.
Okay. As long as you have something.
That I'll try not to knock off my desk because
Right.
I've done that before,
Well,
live, and basically had to just keep going.
you're just like staring at it like, okay. Thanks.
literally like, okay, well, that happened. So, yeah, we're just gonna keep trucking. Everything's fine. Yeah.
Nothing's
Fine.
distracting to my left. No, nothing.
Not at all. Like things are not getting ruined on the floor. No,
Right. It's
nothing.
not seeping into, no.
Everything is fine. Okay. Okay, guys, welcome to today's episode of EmpowHERing Coffee Convos. I'm Jessi, the founder and chief empowerment officer of This Way to Fabulous. And today is very special. Today, I am here with Samantha Campen. She is the founder of Moxie Consulting. She is a copywriter for sassy folks, okay? And she is a brand voice strategist, okay? She loves plants, books, animals, and watching baking shows because who doesn't, right? But most of all, Sam loves a good chance to dismantle the patriarchy and make sure that women get their fucking turn at the podium. Okay. Now, you guys know just from that statement, I am here for all of that. And I know plenty of you guys are too. So also very special note, Sam is also the newest member of the official This Way to Fabulous team. And I literally cannot contain my excitement. More on that soon. I promise. That's not what we're talking about today. But before we start, Sam, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? Just kind of a quick synopsis of your life story, maybe, and where you're at in life right now.
A quick synopsis of my life story. I will spare everyone the early beginnings, but I've always been a lover of reading and writing. I was an English major in college. Like a lot of English majors, when I got out of college, I didn't do any jobs relating to being an English major. But no matter what I did, I was in sales and, but I always had a way of communicating, and that was really important in sales. And I think that my English background helped me with that. And then in the early to mid 2000s, when blogging was like the cool new thing.
Oh yeah, back when that was like the social platform.
Right. I mean, like I was an OG blogger. Like that is when, get
it, girl.
Right. And so then somehow I got approached by Nintendo's marketing company, and they wanted me to be a Nintendo brand like influencer. There was like 50 of us throughout the country. And I'm like, okay. So then I kind of got more aware of reaching an audience, like who is my audience and my authentic voice, and social media, and then, like the Facebooks and all of that, and Twitter before it turned into a dumpster fire. Like a long time ago. And that just got me really into social media. And then with my sales background, I've always been passionate about things that I love. And so then kind of connecting the two, it just kind of made sense. So then along the way, my husband started his own marketing and PR consultancy. And with some clients, I would help with the social media. Okay. He would do, 360 campaigns, and I would help with social media. I was home with the kids, and that was just something I was doing like to help him and on the side. And then the pandemic hit, and the
pandemic, you're not allowed to say the real word because then Google starts showing us all the things. We call it the pandemic.
That's pandemic. Absolutely what it was. And his business kind of, fizzled a little bit. We didn't know what we were going to do. We were trying to regroup. And then I said, okay, well, let me just see if I can get some writing jobs, if I see anything online, and things started coming up and I was really liking it. And what was really cool is they were more my ideal client than my husband's, because that was like his company and I was just writing for like all of his people. So then I kind of liked being in charge, and then that kind of set me on the path to Moxie as it is today.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So how long has Moxie actually been a thing?
Like an official LLC, it will be 2 years in May. I should probably find out Moxie's birthday. That's important.
Don't worry. I don't really know mine either.
Right. So like I was just kind of chugging along and like doing my own clients. And then I was in a like masterclass group, and they're like, we think this sounds like you and your voice, and you shouldn't be under his LLC. Like, you need your own brand and everything. I'm like, oh, this was never the direction I expected to go. Like, I was never like, I'm going to have my own business and I'm going to be the one in charge. And so then I told Brian, and he's like, get it. He's like, go out there. He's like, you kick ass, your LLC versus my LLC. Like, it'll be like a cage match and it'll be awesome. And you just do it. And then it just, I'm learning along the way, but I think I've always had a sense of who I am and my writing and my personality. And once I finally learned to lean into it, that's when things just really started happening. And then I felt most comfortable. Instead of being this professional version of what, you just kind of have ingrained in your head.
Like a society standard that people just kind of assume is what they should be doing. Yeah, for sure. And I really like how you talk about leaning in. I think that's something that a lot of people can use the help and the reminder of being able to lean in. And for some people, it's more risky than others, and depending on their circumstance and their situation. But the ideology behind leaning in remains the same, that, if the universe is kind of pulling you towards something that is meant for you, leaning into that can completely change your life. It can completely change the trajectory of like where you're going and what you want to do. I think that's amazing. I love that. So I am personally so excited that you're here. So just a little backstory for you guys. Sam and I we had a team photo shoot last weekend, and 2 weeks ago now, I don't even know. It was awesome. Like so awesome. So she is currently, if you are watching or if you are not watching the YouTube version, she is currently wearing the t-shirt that we had made for all of us, that basically it says that she's a word wizard. And we all had t-shirts that had our niche on them, and it was really fun. So seeing her wearing this shirt today is like just an extra layer of fun for me. So, okay, let's dive right in here. So let's backtrack a little bit here. What big thing happened for you first? Motherhood or having a successful career? Maybe not even Moxie per se, but like having a successful career. What came first for you?
Well, I wouldn't even say that I've had a career prior to, my oldest is 15.
Okay.
So I just had jobs, like they weren't a career. I wasn't really looking, I want to grow 10 years down the road with this company or whatever. It was just like, okay, what can I do that I'm pretty okay at that would help support my family? That was just like, what it is. So definitely motherhood first. So I have a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old. So it's nice that they're not like as I'm starting and growing a business, it's very helpful that it's
tell me more.
right. No, I know. Hashtag it gets better.
Yes.
But starting your own business during a pandemic when your kids are home, and you're also scared out of your mind because it was the early days, like what's going on? Are we going to die? And all of that. Will we have enough food? Will we have enough, so that wasn't enjoyable. Don't recommend.
0 out of 10.
But, right. Yeah. But the cool thing to, kind of find some ray of light from the pandemic. So many businesses were born from the pandemic.
Absolutely.
And a lot of them were women because they had kids at home. They couldn't go into an office. Maybe they were laid off, which don't get me started. So they had to, women are scrappy. Women, get shit done. So they're just like, okay, what can I do from home? What is accessible for me and works with, my family? And a lot of businesses were created, and that is so badass. So, and some, small businesses already that were developed were struggling. So it's just like, who can we amplify? Who can we lift up? Who can we promote? Things like that. So that got me kind of, really lit up. So,
I feel like we as women became the hot commodity in the pandemic because, people were struggling, and who came in and swooped up and like saved the day for a lot of people. Us women who are out here killing the game, like,
right. And used to doing 10, 15 things at once, used to, managing all of like the mental load. So it's just like, okay, I've kind of been training for this. I mean, not that anyone should be thrown into a pandemic because it was scary as hell. But it's like, okay, I'm used to adapting on a dime, because motherhood, hour to hour, day to day is
1000%
completely different. Right.
Yeah.
So,
we have less fear, I feel like, in pivot, in the need to pivot and like figure things out and try new things. Like, I feel like women held a lot less fear in that aspect, because that's kind of where a lot of us thrive, is like pivoting and making, quick decisions and having to fix things and things like that. Like, I feel like that's sort of a maternal instinct in a sense. And that was something that in the pandemic really changed things for people, really, really changed things for people.
Right.
So I think that you have a really unique story a little bit here, because I do feel like a lot of women that I talk to have younger kids when they are starting their business and, made it through the pandemic and stuff. So I'm curious a little bit more about kind of the struggles you faced as a mom, starting this business in the pandemic with older children. What kind of struggles did you have? And like, how did you overcome or work through that? Well,
I mean, the biggest struggle was them doing virtual school, because, I'm either trying to meet with my mastermind group, meeting with my strategist, Zoom calls, trying to get some things done either for my website or for a client. And then, my mic isn't working, or is your internet down? Why isn't my Chromebook working? Or my daughter, so the pandemic started the last half when she was in first grade. So then she was in virtual school in second grade. And that's when I was trying to, get things going. So as a second grader, I mean, I not even just my daughter, but the sitting and the attention and the patience. So she was always popping in and, are you in a meeting? I know I should be doing my lesson, but I just wanted to come in and tell you about my dream last night, and, stuff like that. So,
the line got blurry between.
It absolutely did. But during that time, like, what are you supposed to do? Like, you can't make it perfect. Nothing is ideal.
The best you can.
Anyone.
That's what.
Right. And the best you can changes every day.
Absolutely.
And I saw a quote that said, even if you only have 40% to give on any given day, and you give 40%, you gave 100% of yourself, because that is what you were able to do that day.
That's a great reference. I like that.
Right. And I'm sorry, I can't attribute it to anyone. I don't know who said it. So it was not me. I'm not taking credit, I promise. But yeah, every day was different and new stresses. But I think no matter what anyone was doing during that time, we were all going through the ups and downs, the stresses, the interruptions, not having a routine because everything was turned upside down, all of that.
Yeah. And I think the key here too, that a lot of listeners will be able to relate to is you showed up. It didn't really matter what it looked like when you showed up, but you showed up. And the important part of that is not how you show up. It's that you show up. And I think that that's something that a lot of women in general struggle with, especially when things get crazy like it did during the pandemic. So, I think that holds true to pretty much people of any age, minus the fact that like when the pandemic hit, my son was 2.5 and ain't no school for those little MFers.
Right. Yeah.
That was a whole different ballgame. But I think it's the common theme is that you showed up. And that's all that really mattered at that point. That's really all that mattered, was that you showed up and that you never gave up. Yeah. And that you kept going no matter how pretty or nasty it looked. You did it.
Right.
So during that time, you were trying to build Moxie. Did you ever have a time when you were like wanting to quit, when you were like, you know what, this is too much. I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't. Was there ever a hurdle for you that, maybe set you back a little bit, that you questioned if it was something that you were going to continue pursuing?
I don't think like to that extent, just like burn it all down and I'm out.
That's me every day.
Right. But I mean, there were times when I was super overwhelmed and I just couldn't pick what was a priority because whatever was in front of me, like building the business, reaching out to clients, working on Moxie, working on myself, working for the client, like it just seemed like everything needed to get done yesterday. So
also me every day.
Right. And so I really credit the cohort that I was in and the strategist I was working with, who I'm still working with today, where she would just be like, okay, so I see this is overwhelming you. Why do you think that is? And so we kind of talk about it. And she's like, maybe it's the preconceived idea of the way you think it should be done, as opposed to what works for you and how you want to do it.
So much. Yes.
And it's the shoulding all over ourselves, right? Like everything is just, well, it should be like this and I should do more, or I should make it better. All of that. And she really helped me kind of realize what was working for me, if I was putting the extra stress on myself, or if it was truly warranted, if not that this ever happened, but just an example, like, well, yeah, you should be stressed out. That was due 2 weeks ago. Maybe the stress can make you finish it or something like that. But instead of, well, are you the only one saying this to yourself? Are you the only one, putting all this pressure on you? So that's where I got really hung up, because it sounds weird now, 2 years in, but realizing that I was the one in charge and making all the decisions, because I'd always worked for people. It's just like, okay, here's the things you need to do. This is when it needs to get done by, blah, 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 meet your numbers, all that. And like in the beginning, I guess I was kind of waiting to be told what to do. And then after a while, it's like, it's me. And then that was kind of panicking, and then I'm like, oh, it's me. I don't have to work with that type of client. Like, that type of client is not my ideal. That would stress me the hell out. I get to pick and choose what works for me in my business. And so I guess it's not the stages of grief, but it's just like, okay, you kind of have to go through the process of evolving from working for someone to working for yourself. And once I kind of got there, then it was like, okay.
Yeah.
Then even if I got stressed, which like who doesn't? I was able to be like, okay, these are my boundaries. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm not doing. And I will take it from there. And so, once I work through that, then it got better.
And really, every business is going to have those transitional seasons. And those seasons, they come back. I mean, don't feel like you're like, I'm just here to tell you that that's going to come back, and that you're going to realize that being the one in charge is a double-edged sword, because yay, I get to make all these decisions. And then you're like, shit, I have to make all of these decisions.
I'm the grown-up. Like when you have a kid, it's like, oh my God.
Yes. And it is really this double-edged sword. And I really do love all of the memes and reels out there about what people think I do versus like what I actually do, or these kinds of things, because I think it's really interesting how a lot of entrepreneurs have the same idea of what other people think of what we do, because like and I think that we kind of like exaggerate a little bit, but there are definitely people who are like, oh my God, you have the best life. Like you get to make your schedule whatever the hell you want. I'm like, yeah. And it effing sucks most of the time, because it's a lot of extra pressure to not be told what to do. And I'm in a season of my business where, I brought on a COO because I need to be told what to do. I brought on someone to help me with that exact scenario that you said of like, you just have all these things in front of you. And I am so glad that you cannot see my desk right now, because you would probably have a panic attack. But like, I definitely came to terms with the fact that was something that I needed in order to continue growing. And I think that's half of the battle, right? Like actually coming to terms with the fact that something needs to change, or that you need help, right? I am definitely an advocate for asking for help, because I spent way too much of my life trying to do everything by myself. And don't get me wrong, I'm still that person. I still veer that way. Still, I'm like, I'll figure it out. But like, I've come to terms with the fact that there is just no room for vertical and horizontal growth at the same time on your own. There just isn't. It is like physically not possible. So I think that's really powerful. And I think that a lot of people can relate to that season of, feeling like just kind of unsure, not like you're going to quit, but just kind of feeling unsure, overwhelmed, not really sure exactly what to tackle first. I think that's a really common season, kids or not. I feel like.
Well, and then how many entrepreneurs are just working alone in their house? Yeah. So not having a network, like, yeah, you can hire a COO, whatever, but just having my networking group that we met with over Zoom. So I'm not just in my head all the time, sitting in my office, kids running in or not, like you said. It's just like, you need people who are generally on the same page as you, in the same area of business growth that you are. Different industries, you want different, opinions and perspectives, but just not being alone in your head to amplify the stress and the freaking out, so that's really helpful too. Reaching out and asking for help, not necessarily task by task basis, but just reaching out to have a support system.
Yes, that's a great point. There's two very different sides to, bringing in help. One can be actually hiring someone and having someone to fulfill some tasks or give you a specific task list. But there's a whole nother way to get help in your growth and your seasons. And that is absolutely surrounding yourself with other people who are on a similar journey as you. You don't want to be in a room with everybody who's on the same exact journey as, well, first of all, nobody's ever on the same exact journey, but,
right. But yeah,
you don't always want to be in a room with people who are all on the exact same journey as you, because there's not a lot of learning room in there. You want to be in a room with people who are maybe a couple steps behind you, a couple steps ahead of you. That's a really important place to be in order to grow, in order to, you know, come to terms with wherever you're at and kind of figuring that out. Right. Yeah. I love that. I think networking is really huge. I do feel like, looking back in the last year, I've done a lot more networking subconsciously almost. I do have a networking group that I meet up with once a month. I'm trying to start my own as well, closer to where I live. And it's just great to like get out there and talk to people, not even working at home, being an entrepreneur is lonely as fuck. Right. Like, it's me, my headphones and my mic, like, and my computer screen. Like, it's really hot and heavy in here. Like,
which is great, you know, like this percentage of the time, balance, right? Like, I would never want to throw that away. But you know, having a reason to put on pants that aren't elastic and, you know, to take a shower, it's just like, I get to go meet with my friends today. Yay!
Yes.
You know? And so it is nice.
Okay. Random question. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
My husband and I were just talking about that the other day. And I said, I think, at least with me, it's circumstantial. Sure. So I would say prior to the pandemic, I leaned more extrovert, but not like fully, like maybe 70% extrovert. Yeah. But then after the pandemic, I'm like, leave me alone. Yeah. He's like, what? Being stuck in the house with all of us for 2 years didn't really, I'm just like, yeah. So I think now, and I explained it like this, I am still extroverted. I am more guarded with who I spend my energy with and who I receive my energy from. Yeah. And I need it more spread out. Like, I can't have like 3 major days, like our photo shoot, like back to back.
No,
like,
I was dead for like 2 days after that.
Right. That wiped me out. I mean, I loved it. And I was like electrified and I got so much energy from being with everybody, but I needed recovery. Yes. So I'm probably like more 50-50. Yeah. But it just depends on who I'm around.
Yeah, for sure. I consider myself an extroverted introvert. So I am much more of an introvert, I think, but I can extrovert when I want to and when I need to. Yeah. But I don't mind being alone. To be fair, I have never worked for anybody else. I've never worked for another company. I started my companies out of college and have pretty much always been in this position. So if I wasn't very good by myself, I feel like I would not be here today anymore. 10 years later, 12 years later, still doing what I'm doing. So I'm very good by myself. But as you get older, you know, it starts to get really lonely. It starts, you know, when you just really have to find that balance. And I think that finding the balance is the hardest freaking part. Yeah.
And like you said, especially at this stage in our lives where we're so busy, either, you know, with kids or not, work, family, it's just like, okay, what little time I have, who do I want to give it to? Yeah. Which, you know, is that's exactly what it is. Who gets the rest of my free time and my energy, which might be dangerously low. Yeah. But who can help me recharge?
And I think in that aspect too, where I struggle is when I get to that point and I'm like, okay, I have this like little bit of time and I need to choose what to do with it. And I want to choose myself. I want to just choose to do whatever I need. I'm at pedicure, a massage, whatever. But then I immediately feel guilty that I'm choosing myself over others. And I think plenty of women can relate to that, but that is definitely a struggle that I have. And I also just have a struggle in general to take a break because I am just a hustler. I just always have been. I thrive in chaos. I mentally do better when I'm moving, when things are busy. And Brianna's working with me on that, but That is definitely kind of like where I'm at with that. So, okay. So we got a lot to talk about today, regarding copywriting specifically. Okay. So, but I think before we dive too deep into that, I think we should clarify the what. Okay. So I think what copy is actually kind of one of the most important parts for people to understand, because I think that people hear the word copy and they just don't really know what that means. So Sam, in like the clearest way possible, maybe the most kindergarten way possible, what the F actually is copy?
Okay. So copy is the words on your marketing. So website, newsletter, print, even billboard, if you've got billboards. But it's not just words. The words have a sales push. So it's the difference between copywriting and content writing. So someone on Instagram just writing about, oh, it was a beautiful day, we took the kids to the park, and here's the sandwich I had at lunch. That's content writing. There is no call to action. There is no click here to buy this sandwich, or whatever. So of course, you've got a business, you're getting a spicy new beautiful website. You need copy for that. So that is, it's the words that are going on your website.
And I think part of what you said there that was really important was that it's not about the content writing is typically factual or like about something specific. And when you are building copy, especially on a website, call to actions are obviously very important, but there's also a subliminal messaging in providing that like impulse that they need this, that like you want to approach them in a way that they realize and they feel, right? You're trying to evoke emotion with copy, I think, more than in content. Most of the time you're just writing about what it is. It's a lot more factual. And I feel like at least copy is a much more emotionally engaging form of words. Or how they're put together.
And when I say with a sales, drive, I'm not talking about the sleazy, car salesman or anything like that. But I mean, go to a website. That's what it is. I don't care what website you go to. I don't care what brand you pick. They have their website up there so you could buy their goods or services. And business owners, female small business owners, whoever, have websites so people know about them and engaging, and hey, click, make an appointment, download this, whatever. So I mean, there are so many ways that it can be done, but just in the most basic way possible. That's how I described it. But absolutely, because sales is evoking emotion, and it is trying to build a connection. Like, how could I have ever lived without that slap chop until I saw this commercial and they were telling me about it? Like, oh my gosh, how could I have ever lived without this resume writer? I mean, me doing it on my own, oh my gosh, no, of course I want to make an appointment with her. So yes. And I mean, that's when I really get into brand voice and ideal client, but so let's kind of squeeze
into that just a tiny bit. So I don't necessarily think we need to talk too much about target client today. It does have a big part in it, so we can touch on it. But I do think brand voice is something that is really important to talk about with copy, because I think that no matter what, even with that definition of copy, people are still thinking that like, okay, it's just a bunch of words on a page. Like, I'm just going to go write a bunch of these things and say, hey, click here. Like, okay, no.
Okay, no.
That's cute, but no. Right. Let's talk a little bit about a brand voice and how you kind of like need to approach the strategy of building a brand voice.
So, and this kind of circles back to when I was talking about leaning in. So the people who come to me saying, I need to refresh my website. I've been in business for a while and I want to refresh it, or I'm starting this business, from scratch. I don't have any copy. When I start asking them about their brand voice and about what do you want your company to stand for? What are the things that your company prides itself on? And, going into more questions. And then I start asking about the owner of the company. So in this scenario, it's just a one person owner, like me and Moxie, it's just me. So I ask about this person, what do you like to do for fun? What kind of movies do you like? And just get a sense of their personality. And they're like, oh, well, I can't have that kind of energy on a website. That's not professional. And so that's when I kind of break down, and say this is for like a fun t-shirt company, just as an example. So you want to have that kind of energy, but then these women in this instance are just thinking professional, because that is what everybody's been told. And if they came from a corporate culture and then they're starting their own business,
Definitely.
It's drilled into us. And then it's like, well, I need to market to anyone who will buy my stuff. So I need to be as vanilla as possible to not turn anyone away. And I thought the same way. I'm the first person to say that I was like that too. But it's like, you aren't for everyone. Your target audience isn't the entire world. Like, girl, you can't be everything to everyone. And I say that to all women, even if they don't own businesses.
1000%.
Because it's impossible. It's impossible. So leaning in to who you are and not masking for whoever is in front of you will organically grow your business and keep you happy and not wanting to just jump in a river, because you will enjoy working with your clients, right? Because if you show who you are and who your business is, then the people who aren't for you won't even bother you. Like they won't even schedule an appointment with you.
Yeah.
So it is showing and selling to the people. And I know we're not going to dive into target audience, but it really is connected, because your brand voice will attract who you want to work with and who is meant for you. So it's very important to get that out on the website. And just because my website has swear words and emojis, that doesn't mean that anyone I write for, that's how it's going to be. Of course not. You don't have to curse like on your website. But if you've got like a phrase that you always say, and that you're probably going to be saying, to your clients or whatever, then let them know who you are. Because I also say this, what you sell, either services or like a tangible product, you're not the only one. So there is other competition out there. So what sets you apart from the other people selling chairs or selling candles or whatever is you. They are signing on to buy you and your personality and your customer experience. So we need to make sure that they connect with you. So that all goes into the copy. And it doesn't have to sound like a robot. Sounding like a robot isn't professional. Like that isn't the image that we need to constantly hold in our heads. And no, you don't want to offend people. Of course not. But
well, there's a line. Yeah. I mean, there's a fine line between
right.
getting over political or over, you know,
course.
there's definitely a line. But I will
Right.
say too, from my own personal experience, that, you know, last year when I relaunched the entire structure of my brand, I relaunched my website, I relaunched everything. I absolutely, the biggest difference between the last season of that business and the beginning of the new one was by far the copy and the way I approached speaking to people. Okay. So my secret tip, okay, was that I used my phone and I put on the dictation and I would speak to my phone as though I was speaking to someone. And that is more along the lines of how I wrote my copy. Now, I did not hire a professional copywriter because Sam did not fall out of the sky when I was in this season of my business. But instead, me and my past business partner, you know, kind of set out to figure out how we're going to get this out there. And the biggest tip I had was literally speaking to my phone. And it feels so silly, but it is way easier to make conversational copy that way than it is to type it, because we are conditioned to type a certain way. We just are. We have that ingrained in us that like this is the proper period and the proper space and the proper capitalization. You know, I'm not saying you should have grammar errors all over your website. Definitely don't do that. But like,
no, that'll make me
the way to approach it is you need to be speaking to the client. You need to be speaking to the potential viewer who's coming onto your site. My past site, embarrassingly enough, I mean, I like put that thing together like real fast because I was like, oh, people keep asking me to do these projects. Like, I need a website.
Right.
The biggest embarrassment of that, looking back, was that website was literally all about me. All about me. It's like, look what I've done. Look how old I am. Look what kind of puppy I have. Look how, like, it was all about, here's all the things that I do. And the biggest transition was when I started talking about the things that like they get out of it. What emotion, what emotion do you want them to evoke? What connection do you want to make them feel like, oh my God, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. Like, she knows exactly how I'm feeling. And reading. I will tell you, my conversion rate of people who, now I'm not saying I have 100 leads a day. I'm not saying that like my leads went through the roof, but my conversion rate went absolutely through the roof because I book 80% of the people I talk to, because when they talk to me on Zoom, they felt like they already knew me because they like went through my website and they're like, wow, she's just exactly who I thought she was. And then yesterday I had a call, and this was like a really proud moment for me, I think, for my brand build. I had a call yesterday and she was like, oh my God. She was like, I just loved your website. I loved the way that it was, I love the way that it was put together. I loved the verbiage that you were using, it just felt like, so like she gets me. And I was like, that's so amazing. And she goes, I mean, look at your background is even like on brand. And I was like,
because it's me. Right.
It's so cohesive. Your emails, everything was like so cohesive. And I'm like, that is the point. When you are building a brand, it is not a logo. It is not words on a page. It is not the color palette you choose. It is the collective way that you approach your brand and how you, present your brand to the world, the emotion that you evoke to the people around you. The people who are all coming to me as leads right now are people who are like, I saw your website, or I saw this website you did for someone, or I saw these photos you did for someone, and they had just a great experience. It is all about the experience. I am very firm in, when I'm like doing business coaching with some of my clients, I'm very firm in the fact that people do not buy your service or your product. They buy the experience that you give them. Yep. Okay. Not even just the experience. It's the experience that you give them. Yes. Like Sam said, there are thousands, billions of people doing the same thing that you are. And instead of worrying about the competition and worrying about what everybody else is doing, recognize the fact that no one is you. No one is doing things exactly the way you can do them. And that is where the real power comes into it. And then obviously bringing it to life in your copy and being able to present that. Trust me, guys, if you update the copy on your website in a manner of how you would speak to people and the problems that you solve for people, I can almost guarantee you that conversion rates will skyrocket because you are actually talking to the specific person and you are attracting. Vibe attracts your tribe, y'all. Like,
absolutely.
Right.
And when I have very similar experiences when people meet with me. They're just like, I knew from the minute I clicked on your website, and the first thing you see is, I want to amplify the shit out of your brand. I would say 9 out of 10 times, the first thing out of people's mouths when they meet me is, when I saw the word shit, I knew I had to meet you. I knew that you were the one for me. And then they kept scrolling, the website, and I get the same thing. It's like, I'm talking to the person that I was reading on the website. Like, you are exactly like you wrote on the website. And that is the biggest compliment. And like you said, the conversion, because the people who are then booking the appointments or, whatever, are already pretty much sold in the back of their head.
1,000%. Yes.
Because they're not going to waste their time. Like it saves everybody's time weeding out the people who are not for you.
Absolutely.
So that saves time, that saves money. And it is just, even without going into SEO and all of that, just having the language and the energy that represents you and your brand is priceless.
For sure. And you have to remember, you guys, we can't be everywhere for everyone. Okay. So the point of your website should sort of be a way for you to be there for everyone, right? You answer their question. You answer a lot of the questions that people have already. You attack those certain points so that when they do come to your website, it's kind of like you're there. Even though you're not. That should absolutely be part of your strategy. And I think that it's also just important to recognize that it is probably one of the biggest things that people put to the bottom of their list of priorities when they are building a brand or their website.
Right. I mean, it's probably unintentional. Like, oh, what's the big deal? Like, and I think it's just from lack of knowledge, of just the full understanding of what copy is.
For sure. And I think that most people can already understand why you are a team member, why you fit in so freaking just so freaking great.
We're the same person.
Fun story or fun fact. One of our recent clients actually thought that we were related. And she was like, was she your sister or your cousin? I was like, no. And she's like, oh my God, you guys are like so much the same. And I was like,
Yeah. She's like, you guys talk the same. And that's when I said, well, she's from the South. So maybe just any Midwesterner, sounds similar. But she's like, yeah, you talk the same. Like, you guys are the same. And I'm just like, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, let's move on a little bit with the copy. So I'm just curious, like I'm super curious. What would you say that the biggest misconception of copywriting is? Like, what do you hear a lot that like makes you laugh? Like, what myth maybe would you debunk that like you hear a lot about copy?
Well, it shouldn't take that long.
Nothing should take that long. Thanks, Amazon.
Right. Yeah. No, you stare at a blank page, just like in a cursor flashing at you. And that's where it's not just words on a page. Like, there is so much like research, for lack of a better word, research that goes into it, and just creating the voice, that it's not just, I get off a call with you and I can knock out your whole website like in 2 hours. Like, no. So it's just that it shouldn't take that long. I mean, it's just 3 pages.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Like real talk, because I'm assuming that this has happened to you, because I feel like this happens to me too, obviously in a different sense, but like when someone says something like, well, like just to write things, like, why would I hire someone for that? How would you respond to that? Or has that happened to you? Or like, how do you respond to that in you know what? I don't even care how respectful your response is right now.
Well, that specific wording, because no one would go to my website see what I do, then make an appointment just to say that to me.
Sure.
Right. So, and if they did, I'd be like, damn, you went the distance, like you were committed to coming to see me just to say that. I get a lot of, like, if I'm at a networking thing or just introducing myself, like, not that I go to parties, but, oh, I never even thought that could be something that you'd hire out for. Like, it's just not in their purview or whatever. But what I say on my website is, you, business owner, have your zone of genius, right? Like, you started your business so you could do your magical thing. And yes, as a business owner, probably just starting out, you don't have a whole team. You're wearing all the hats, and all the hats aren't why you wanted to start your business. So to save you time, to save you stress, and to keep you making money out there doing your thing, let me take this off of your plate, because either the guilt is weighing you down, like, I know I need to get to that, but I just can't bring myself because I'm not a writer. Writing is not what I do. I make candles and, play with sciencey stuff and like make these potions and creations. Like, I'm not a writer. Yeah. And I'm like, I get that. I don't make candles. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a resume coach, so that's why I hire out for taxes and, all these other things. So could I do my own taxes? Probably. It would take probably 10 hours of sobbing, crying, stressing out. I'm not even lying, like sweating,
all the cookies and bottles of wine.
Exactly. And then there's the chance that I could go to jail because I did it wrong. So like,
1,000%,
I'm not gonna mess with that.
Yeah,
so
no thanks. I'm out.
I just recognize that business owners, everybody has their own zone of genius. And that's the leaning in part. It's just like, own what you're good at that's going to make you money and not stress you out and, just make you question, why did I even do this? Yeah. If I could ease this burden that will bring you money, like this copy will get out there, target audience, your brand voice, nice and shiny, then that's what I'm here for. I'm here to take that time suck away, whether it's through, websites, social media, whatever. Because so many times they're just like, I know I need to do it. I just don't have time because I'm doing all the other things. I'm like, I get it. I totally get it. So just having people hear that this is something I could hire someone for, and then the light bulb goes off, like, shit, that sounds like please. An answer to my prayers.
1,000%. So I think education is a really important part of that, which you guys are going to be seeing a lot more about that on the This Way to Fabulous social media, because that is something that we are setting out to do, to really get it out there and to get people to understand what it is and why it's beneficial to hire a professional to do that. And I think it's really important to note that, like, as women, we are constantly like second guessing ourselves, and we are constantly picking apart all of the pieces about us, right? Like, you look in the mirror and you look in the mirror and you're like, oh my God, this jacket's too tight, or my legs are so big, or my mommy pooch, or, whatever. And someone in the next room, and then you leave the room, you go to whatever, and they're like, girl, so like having that outsider view of you to like explain you and to like act as you is like a gift from God, because we could spend months, years going over and over and over this copy, like, I don't know, like, let someone else come in and tell you who you are in a sense, because like,
and get it done.
Yes, and get it done and get it done, because you know what? It's likely going to continue to change. Copywriting is not something that you definitely like do once and then you're done forever. It's something that I usually tell my clients to audit their copy every year for their website to make sure that are the same people working there? Are you selling the same service? Are you in the same location? Do you have the same brand voice, or did you sort of transition into a new target audience? Those are important things to remember when you are building that part of your website. So I want to dive into something a little bit deeper here quick, because I think it's important. And we also recently experienced this together with one of our clients. When you think about the seasons of business and the constant kind of ebbs and flows, the roller coaster, what would you say is the best season to assess either your current copy or, pursue the project of developing brand new copy?
You mean like in terms of the seasons of growth?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
Okay. So obviously, well, no, I don't want to say obviously, because not every business owner needs to have a website day one. It depends on what their services are. So I won't say that. I will say it is great when this is what I'm doing, and I know I'm going to kick ass. Like I'm ready to invest in my business, because not everybody can invest. They have to start slow. It's like, I'm ready to go like to the wall with this. Like okay, here we go. So as you're ramping up, and then to your point, if you've been in business a year and a half, and because you're in charge, you're the business owner, you can change things whenever the fuck you want. So if all of a sudden you decide, you know what, I don't like offering that service anymore, I want to tweak it and lean in more to this service.
Yes. And I think that's huge in the beginnings of business.
Yes.
In the very first few years of business, that is very common.
Right. Because one, I'm ready to redo my website, which I already talked to you about. And two, I already had a change with my services. So it's like, you never know when that's going to happen. But also I've had people come to me, hey, this is like our biggest seller, whatever it is. And that's great. With this audience, we want to elevate the next package to get a higher kind of customer or client. So we need to change the voice for that just a little bit. So if you are adding new services that are for a completely different audience, if you just decided, I'm not doing that anymore, I'm totally rebranding, and now I'm only doing consultancies like over Zoom, so then we need to change that. But, and also to your point, it's good to audit your copy, because when you're so used to it, it's easy to just forget about it. And honestly, how often are we on our own websites? We're probably not looking at them every day. So it's just like, oh, it's this thing that's working for me in the background. Okay, it's chugging along.
Maybe you're not looking at yours every day, but I'm in there changing God knows what every day.
Well, okay. I'm just saying as an example, maybe not everyone is Jessi.
Not everyone is me. Thank God for that. I would feel bad for a lot of people.
So it's just, set the time on your calendar to reevaluate your business, to reassess it, and to just look and make sure maybe your pricing changed.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, that's more of a practice. That's just a good business practice. That's not even, has nothing to do with copy or your web design or any of those things at this point. Like, that's just good business practice to assess all of those things on a yearly basis to make sure that you're going in the right direction. Make sure that you're feeling fulfilled in the direction, and that you're not wasting your own time and energy on something that's not actually right for you. Right.
Absolutely. That's why it's just like, okay, no, I don't want to do this anymore, because I sat down, I thought about it. Do I kind of dread having to do this thing that I'm offering? Well, then that's a light bulb moment. So it's just like, okay, I'm the boss. I don't want to offer that anymore. I really enjoy doing this. So let's amplify that out there with our copy, with our strategy.
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like a lot of listeners are probably like literally like, oh my God, like they see me. I am the person like hiding in the corner, raising my hand because yeah, I'm that person that hasn't done XYZ. Like, gosh, I think it's time for me to like take a different approach to my brand and really focus on, building better copy. What is the biggest piece of advice that you would give to them when it comes to finding and hiring a copywriter?
Well,
email me.
pick
me, email me.
I mean, sure. But just overall, just as brand voice is important to your business, make sure that you connect with the copywriter, either from their website or not. Some copywriters don't have websites and they're still amazing. But just make sure you have that connection, because if they don't connect with you, it's going to be hard for them to establish that brand voice. And also make sure that they take brand voice into consideration instead of, oh God, just a thought, like literally makes me shudder. Like if they have a template or something, and that's like what they use for all of my home pages, this is how I do it. It's like, oh my God. So, every business and business owner is a special snowflake. Like they are their own unique, like you're not a cookie cutter, so your copy shouldn't be. And that's what I say. So it's like, make sure that your copywriter doesn't have like this, well, I have to check these 3 boxes. I always do this, and I always do this, and I always do that. It's just like, well, then are you seeing me and my business and my personality as an individual? Like, so we can really dive deep and, really get to what's important to me. And, just make sure that, there's that love fest, just like the first time, that you meet, it's like, I really want to know that I connect with you, and vice versa. Like there are some clients that I just won't take on. Because in the end, it never goes the way it should. And I'm using the word should, but whenever there's that feeling, I'm just like, I shouldn't take them. I'm
a big believer in that gut feeling. I'm a big believer in that gut feeling because, there's a reason we get those gut feelings. There's a difference though between a gut feeling and like butterfly fear, tummy kind of thing. There's a difference, and figuring out the difference is sometimes half of the battle. But I feel like, yes, like totes my goats.
Right. Totes my goats.
Special snowflake is now going to be my my favorite term. Like ever.
Everyone has their special snowflake thing.
Yeah. I like that.
Lean into it. Embrace it.
I love that. Okay, so let's just say, because I know that everyone's in a different season of business. I know that the way the economy is, everybody's in a very different seasons of maybe their personal lives as well, their circumstance, whatever it is. So let's say that hiring a copywriter is just not in the budget right now. Like it is just not in the budget in the current season. We're all there. Like, do not feel shame for being in a position where you do not have the budget to hire someone for something. That's okay. You should never feel shame for that, because there are always seasons, and every season is going to start and it is going to end and it is going to transition into something else. It's all about prioritizing. I get it. Professionals, we cost money, and it's definitely an investment, especially when you find that right fit. It's definitely an investment. So let's just say it's not in the budget. Can you give our listeners 2 major tips for DIYing their own copy, or DIYing maybe one tip for brand voice and one tip for like actually writing the copy?
Well, I'm big on inspiration. And I would recommend, and this doesn't have to be a similar website in your own industry. It could be any brand that you love. And we all know good branding and you click on something, you're just like, holy shit, like who approved that?
I can't unsee that.
Right. No, I'm haunted forever. And then I forward it to everybody because I'm like, if I had to look at this, you all have to look at it too.
Oh, but then all of your
them.
friends start to send you, like, I get that all the time. I get people who send me screenshots of things and they're just like, they need you in their life.
Right.
I'm
right.
like, thanks.
Yeah, obviously. But go to a website if you're writing web copy. Go to a few websites that you really like either the tone or the layout, or even how you break out, sentences. And if you like how they have like a couple sentences and then they have like a bulleted list and then it goes to like another sentence, whatever inspires you, whatever you connect with, use that as your inspiration. Obviously, you're not going to copy it word for word. We know not to do that.
Do we though? I mean, I feel like that's worth saying again for the people in the back, because
just throwing it out there, nice little reminder, copyright violation, whatever. So
another episode.
Right. Yeah. So just get inspired, because if this isn't something you've done before, then that can kind of get your juices flowing and, give you some sort of creative spark.
It can help give you a little outline too, I feel like, of
Right. Mm-hmm.
just the types of information that you sort of need to fill. When I'm building web design and I use, if they don't have their imagery yet and I'm using stock photos, I've gotten this numerous times where people will say, I know that's obviously a stock photo, but I know now it was really helpful to know what kind of photo I need to replace it with. So giving them sort of like, it gives them a starting point to get an idea of the kinds of information that they need to gather. Okay, I like that. What's number 2?
Even backing into it, like so many times, you could be like, well, I don't know what I like, but I know I don't like that.
Yes,
So,
I'm a huge believer in just cancel out the things you don't like. That's way easier.
That can also funnel you towards, okay, now I kind of, it's not as overwhelming when you've got the whole internet in front of you. It's like, oh my God. Right.
Yes.
So that's a suggestion. And then like actually writing it. I really liked your suggestion. I personally cannot do voice notes or anything like that. Is just not, I just can't. Yeah. So, but I know a lot of people can. So I really like what you suggested. And just talk. And then pull some things out of there, and then, maybe make it grammatically correct, throw in a comma, because I'm sure run-on sentences, like when we talk,
Siri doesn't always fully understand the assignment.
Right. And do that also. Ask some family or friends, like, okay, what are the three descriptive sentences you think of when thinking of my business? And then that can help launch your creativity, or you could just use them.
For sure.
And then kind of go from there. But yeah, looking at a blank page when you're not used to doing that, when your zone of genius isn't writing, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
And sometimes I still have like a paper calendar, and I love writing things by hand. So sometimes that might be a better way to kind of jumpstart. So it's totally okay if you go full analog and, write things with paper and pen. If you're just like typing, that's not really what I do, then, write it down. Yeah. And maybe you see something when you're driving and you're just like, oh shit, I want to use that. And then just, jot it down. That
is the reason why I use my phone the most, I think, because my best, my $1 million ideas come to me when I'm driving in the freaking car. Yeah. I'm not going to pull my notebook out and write on it and crash my car and all my dreams go out the window. But I have so many voice memos and just notes that were dictated words, because when you're thinking the clearest, you got to write that down. You will totally lose it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I also recommend setting time in your day, mark it on your calendar, like, okay, I don't want to, I'm scared, I'm intimidated, or I know I won't do it right or whatever, but I need to dedicate just this little bit of time. You don't have to 2 hours. Like, no, if this isn't, if this isn't something you're used to, don't overwhelm yourself, say like 20 minutes. I will just try to make a dent in my copy, and then build up your confidence and go from there.
And I think it's important to just start. So like, even if you start typing or you start writing, that first thing that you write down might not be what actually makes it to your website, but it's better than a blank page, right? And it can start that momentum of starting to get something. And you know what? You can also have people review it when you're done. You can always have someone else review it to say like, hey, like, does this sound like me? Or, and compare. So I love this. I freaking love all of this. So we always end our chats with the same important question. Okay. So what does success mean to you? How do you define it, or how would you describe success?
For me personally.
Yep.
Success means, reaching my goals, and, they change all the time.
Yep.
Reaching my goals and not going crazy while doing it.
Hey, that's like a double win-win right there.
Right. Because I mean,
it's easy to get off track.
I made a very intentional choice. I'm like, I won't do anything that will absolutely jeopardize like my mental health, which then trickles into my physical health, which then, everything falls apart, like with the family. I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to overburden myself.
Yeah.
And
the waterfall effect.
Right. So, reaching my goals. I always also have to feel like I'm in motion with my business. Like, it doesn't matter how small, just even the tiniest bit of momentum towards what I want to do.
Yeah.
So that's important to me too.
Yes. I love that. Sam, thank you so much for joining me today to open up the conversation about copywriting in general, brand voice, and just life as a mompreneur. So many people relate to the things that we talk about that they wish that they either could talk about or that they wish they heard it more. I think that a lot of people have told me that they just feel a lot less alone once they can hear others talking about a lot of the same problems that they have. And that is definitely part of the mission. So Sam, if listeners are totally vibing with this, they want more, they need you in their life right now, where can they find you, or what is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
My website is Moxie Consulting LLC.com. And I have a scheduler down at the bottom. And if you are looking for some copy love, then you can schedule a discovery call with me and we can chat. But it goes over all of my copywriting services and the price starting points. And I just love to get hyped.
Hell yeah.
I want to hear about your business. How can we blow this shit up? Let's go.
Blow this shit up. We're going to blow this shit up. I am going to put all that shit she just said in the show notes so that it is nice and easy for you guys in case you are driving in the car or on your walk, whatever, you're not ready to actually reach out in this minute. I will link it all in the show notes for you guys. Sam, thank you so much for coming. I will chat with you guys soon.
You're welcome. Bye. Thanks for having me.